Last quarter, our groups were required to make a remote-controlled rover that could travel over various obstacles. Now, we had to make an autonomous rover that could control itself, following a black line on the floor while also making its own path and picking up and grabbing a can. Additionally, there was a lot more depth to this project. We had to do coding, a lot more electrical components, as well as 3D printing and laser cutting. There was a lot to get over, so let's first take a glimpse at this project. Before we get any further, let's meet our engineering team.
Hi, my name is Roger.
Hi, my name is Gavin.
Hi, my name is Candy.
Hi, my name is Isaac.
Hi, my name is Bridget.
Hi, my name is Tiffany.
Overall, there was a lot of work to be done on this project, and it seemed a little overwhelming.
However, we did start our work with the design process.
Yeah guys, so I actually recorded this clip underwater and the audio didn't turn out that good, so I'll have to do the voiceover for the clip. This project required a lot of different decisions to be made and accounted for on our CAD. First, we needed to ensure our camera would see the can itself, so we put our Pixie Cam at the top of our rover. Meanwhile, we also had to create a slot for our line following cameras, placing them close to the ground to fully ensure accuracy. Importantly, we also needed to design a claw mechanism that would grab and pick up the can. All of these new parts added a lot of space, so we designed our chassis to have 2 layers since there were so many electronics. Anyways, since our team was called the Furries, we gave our rover a fursona. It was a cat. We gave it cat features.
There is definitely a problem with that toilet. And speaking of problems, we had one really big one, specifically supporting the claw. Once that all was fixed, we were ready to move on.
Who was that guy?
Since our design was approved, we now had to make that design come to life. There was, however, one extra part of the design that was important for this step, and that was the wiring diagram. Given that there are so many electrical parts, the diagram was important for soldering the parts together. Our electronics actually took up a lot of our time. With so many components and the cameras, there was a lot of soldering we had to do. However, our fabrication did not take nearly as long. Instead of manufacturing all the parts with power tools like we did last quarter, we actually were allowed access to laser cutting and 3D printing. We laser cut our chassis just for ease of time, and we 3D printed a lot of more complex shapes like the claw. Once both the electronics and the parts were completed, we put them together to make our finalized rover. However, there was still one more step we needed. Part of this rover that we had to complete was the coding. We had to code the rover to follow black line, making tight turns and knowing when to speed up or slow down. We used our 3 IR sensors to detect the line on the ground, taking the rover to its path until it was over. Then, when it detected its end, we used the Pixie Cam to track where the can was and have it take the rover there by itself. Once the Pixie Cam detected the can was close enough, it grabbed the can and it lifted it up, instructing the rover to do so. Overall, the code took a lot of time, so it was actively being worked on while we did the CAD and the manufacturing. Never be entirely sure our code worked until we finally got into the last step, which was
Guys, the rover did not work. The line following worked for a while, but then everything just broke. It was most likely a material problem with materials given to us, but at least we tried our best.
So we're at the end of the course now, and this marks the end of our Intro to Engineering classes. Obviously, the question remains, did we get a good start into our engineering careers? And I'd say, yeah, we did. We learned how to overcome challenges, we learned how to work with different divisions. Importantly, we learned how to connect as a team, both making friends and successfully making a rover. Now, we're finally beginning to step into our prospective engineering fields, beginning to learn specifics, and I think, based on the success of this class, we'll all find a way to make it through.